For today's video, I'll be attempting the 24-hour reading challenge. So in the span of 24 hours, I'm gonna attempt to read as much as possible. I'll start the challenge tomorrow at 4 a.m. and finish it the day after at 4 a.m. Generally speaking, I'm a really slow reader. I really like to take my time. The more that I like a book, the more that I find myself rereading pages while I'm reading the book for the first time. And so some books just take me a really long time to finish. And that's not really something I want to change. I don't think I'll benefit much from getting through books at a quicker pace or going through as many books as possible. But with that being said, I do have a rough TBR of the books that I want to get to during this challenge. The first book that I want to finish is The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami. This book is definitely on the bigger side. It's around 600 pages. I only have a little bit left and I really want to finish it during this challenge. Usually I really enjoy Haruki Murakami's endings to books, and so I'm really looking forward to how this one ends. The next book is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This book is pretty short. It's only around 200 pages. I've been wanting to discuss this with one of my friends who has read it and really enjoyed it, and so this is a book that I want to get to. The last book in my really rough TBR is God Help the Child by Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison is a writer that won the Nobel Prize for Literature. I've never read any of her other works, but my dad really enjoys her writing, and so I really wanted to give it a try. I believe he particularly likes Song of Solomon. The title as well as the theme seems to be something that I would enjoy reading about, and so I figured this would be a good place for me to start with her. And that's it. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, and hopefully this goes well. Good morning. I woke up at 3:30 today, and I just wanted enough time to get ready before I got started. Now that I'm dressed and my bed is neat, I'm gonna go make myself a cup of coffee and get started on my first book, which is The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami. I'm on page 458 out of around 600, and so hopefully I'll get it done this morning. So right now it's 6:15 a.m. and I've been reading for around 2 hours. I'm really enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun. I really like this book. The thing I'm particularly enjoying about it is that it has multiple stories within it, and we see and follow the lives of many different characters, even though it is from the perspective of one main character. I don't remember dedicating a full day to reading like this since like middle school, and I'm really enjoying it. So update. 5 hours later, I finished it, and right now it is 9:30. I loved it. I love the way that it ended. I still need to think some more about the story. The thing I really like about Murakami is that he doesn't spoon feed you the story and what parts of it mean. He kind of just leaves it up to you to decide. Whenever I finish one of his books, there's always a lot for me to think about long after I've closed the book. The next book I want to read is God Help the Child, but for now I'm just going to take a little break, go find myself some breakfast, and just think about this book a bit longer, sit with my thoughts, and then I'll get started on this one. So I wanted to read the jacket cover in case you were wondering what the story is about. God Help the Child weaves a tale about the way the sufferings of childhood can shape and misshape the life of the adult. At the center, a young woman who calls herself Bride, whose stunning blue-black skin is only one element of her beauty, her boldness and confidence, her success in life, but which caused her light-skinned mother to deny her even the simplest forms of love. There is Booker, the man Bride loves and loses to anger, Rain, the mysterious white child with whom she crosses paths, and finally, Bride's mother herself, Sweetness, who takes a lifetime to come to understand that what you do to children matters and they might never forget. So I've been reading for almost 8 hours and I'm currently a little over 100 pages. And wow, I'm speechless, but this is a really good book and I'm really glad that I'm reading it. Usually, I'm not a fan of fruity scents, but I really like this candle. So I'm still not finished with the book, but I wanted to make a small comment on something that I liked. So in this book, you get chapters that are told from the perspectives of different characters. And it really highlights how self-centered we are in general. Like even when we're in the wrong, we kind of have a way to justify things to ourselves. I do think it's understandable because we only have one life. We only get to live it through one perspective. Regardless of how much we try and imagine what it's like to be someone else, we'll never actually know at the end of the day. But with that being said, that's not an excuse not to think about things from other people's perspectives. Empathy in general is really important. And just because the closest thing that we'll ever get to experiencing the lives of others is through imagining what it's like to be them, doesn't make it any less valuable to do so. It's still an important practice to take yourself out of your body and consider things from different perspectives. So currently it's 3 and I finished God Help the Child, and because of the subject matter, I don't think I could say I enjoyed reading it, but it's a book that I'm really glad I read, and I'm definitely going to read her other works because I really enjoyed the writing. What I particularly liked is that she was concise when needed and expanded on feelings when required. And I do think that that is a talent when it comes to writing, knowing when to expand and when to not. Some of the criticisms for the story was the multiple perspectives. And for me personally, that was what I liked about the story. For some people, that was a turnoff. And so that goes back to the reader, whether or not they enjoyed that type of formatting. And so that is definitely something to consider when picking up this book. Another thing to consider is that there is a lot of discussion regarding child abuse and assault. And so certain parts were very disturbing and a bit difficult to read. What I really like about books is that they can reveal dark, sensitive topics and places to people that would otherwise be shielded from. And so just because you personally aren't affected by certain problems, it doesn't mean that people experiencing those problems, the stories that they have, don't deserve to be heard. I do think it's important to read about topics that would make you uncomfortable. Just because you ignoring them doesn't mean that they don't exist and that real people aren't affected by those problems. With that being said, some topics are particularly sensitive depending on your history or depending on you as an individual. So I do think it's important to consider that when picking up certain books. This is definitely one book that does have quite a bit of child abuse and assault, and if that is a topic that you're not comfortable reading, then perhaps this is not the book for you. One of its criticisms was actually that there was a bit too much cases of child abuse and assault. Honestly, I do agree. I do think that if it focused on a particular case, that might have been better in terms of the themes that I wanted to convey. But this is still a book that I'm really glad I read. I thought that I would share a few quotes. Memory is the worst thing about healing. I do think that memory is a double-edged sword. Even though we're able to learn from it through re-experiencing certain situations and also reliving the really joyous parts of our lives, it also means that the really bad parts, the parts that we want to let go of, are in a way forever going to be a part of us. What kind of love is it that requires an angel and only an angel for its commitment? I think when it comes to ourselves, sometimes we can overlook our own flaws, but it's often difficult for us to overlook the flaws in other people. And I do think it's important to think about why that is, why we seem sometimes to have more sympathy for ourselves than for others. And this is the last one that I will leave you with. Each will cling to a sad little story of hurt and sorrow. Some long ago trouble and pain life dumped on their pure and innocent selves. And each one will rewrite that story forever, knowing the plot, guessing the theme, inventing its meaning, and dismissing its origin. What waste. Now I'm gonna take a short break before the coffee gets cold. So I've been reading for 9.5 hours, and I thought that at this point I would be a little bored, but honestly, I'm really excited to read this book, and I'm still feeling really good. So I've currently been reading for around 11 hours and it's almost 5:30 p.m. I'm at page 66. So it took me a couple pages to get into this book. Right now, I'm definitely interested and I'll see where it goes from here. Hopefully it only gets better. So, electricity went out. Hopefully it's only for a few hours, but luckily I have an external light source and I can keep on reading. So the last book I read for this reading challenge is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. And out of the 3 books that I read for this challenge, this is probably my least favorite. That's not to say that I didn't enjoy it. It was a really quick read, it was heartwarming, and the premise overall was interesting. Before the Coffee Gets Cold is a story about a cafe that gives people the ability to travel back in time and meet with people and revisit certain moments and conversations. So the overall story, the plot is interesting, but I think that I just didn't particularly connect to it because honestly, I didn't really care about many of the characters. I felt like a lot of the characters were very flat. There are certain stories that I feel like I would have felt more had I connected more with the characters, if that made sense. So honestly, the story itself, there was nothing really profound about it. Nothing that I really want to revisit, but with that being said, I still did enjoy it. It was a really quick read. Sometimes you're in the mood to not really think and just enjoy a story. And so this book is definitely good for that. And in total, I read 13 hours. And by the end, I was honestly dead, but it was a good type of dead. And last night, I slept really well. I don't know if it's because reading does require a lot of focus, so perhaps for that reason, I just had a really good night's sleep. But I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed spending the entire day just reading, and this is definitely something that I want to do again and something that I would like to film again. Just because, honestly, I didn't expect to enjoy the day as much as I did. Perhaps other people that attempted this challenge read for more hours than I did, but honestly, I don't think I could have done more than that, or at least not done more than that and enjoyed it. And so I'm glad I stopped when I did, and thank you guys for watching if you made it to the end of the video.